Hi, it's Derek with DSR Real Estate Group, and I wanted to shoot a quick video today to go over a pretty big change that's happened to the way that stratas are run in BC. As you might know by now, there has recently been a change in the ability to enforce rental restrictions in strata corporations in BC. Obviously, there's going to have a fairly substantial impact to strata corporations throughout the area. And I wanted to quickly touch on a few of the implications that this could have to our real estate industry as well. So there's a couple details here that I want to go over first and foremost. The change happened last Friday, and it will cover pretty much any strata that has a rental restriction that could be a percentage or numerical value, or stratas that do not allow rentals at all. Now, what it doesn't cover is any strata corporation that has a 55 plus age restriction, and it also doesn't cover any restrictions on short-term rentals like Airbnb. So I'm going to go over a couple of the pros and cons for owner-occupiers. Then I'm going to quickly touch on investors and tenants as well. So first and foremost, I wanted to touch on owner-occupiers, people who bought a home in a rent-restricted property and who currently live in that property. So obviously, first benefit that you're going to find here is an increase in your flexibility on what you can do with your property. In the past, anyone who owned a rent-restricted property and had a change in their life, such as employment opportunities, or if there's a change in anything really, if you needed to rent out that property for whatever reason and there was that rental restriction, you basically had very few options. Either you sell the place, you can leave it vacant, but then you risk the empty homes and speculation tax, or you can go to the strata and appeal for an exemption. Now, as a owner-occupier, you don't really have to worry about that anymore. So you can rent your place out without too many limitations on that. All you have to do is submit the Form K and you're pretty much good to go. So that's an obvious benefit there. An additional benefit that might come up as well is that you might see a bit of an uptick in value in your property. Typically, a rental restricted home has a bit of a discount baked in because of that loss of flexibility. You also lose out on a pool of potential buyers, investors, and then any potential buyer who wants to move in but is concerned about the rental restriction limitation. So that discount might actually disappear now with that rental restriction enforcement change there. So that could be another potential benefit. Now moving on to some of the potential drawbacks that we might see over the upcoming months here. So like anything, there's going to be some pros and cons. There's some people who are going to be happy with these changes, some people who might not be so much. One of the things that we can see potentially coming up over the next few months and years is an increase in bylaw infraction complaints. So when we're reading strata documents for a property that has no rental restrictions, what we typically see is more noise complaints, smoking complaints, just general untidiness, things like that. And when you have a property that has transitioned over to no rental restrictions, you may see more complaints coming up in your meeting minutes, and you might actually encounter those yourself. Another thing that you might find over the next coming years here is it might be a little bit harder to get maintenance fee increases approved, and also special projects like roof window replacements, things like that. Investors have a little bit less incentive to maintain the property to the same standard as an owner-occupier for some pretty obvious reasons. They'll typically hold on to that property 4 or 5 years, and then they'll sell it and move on to something else. So there's a bit of incentive to maybe skimp on the maintenance of the property for that time that they hold it. So you may find that there might be a bit more challenge in increasing those fees over time. Another challenge that you might find is if you live in a property that's got a good community feel to it, like people who have been living there for decades and have a good sense of community there, is that you might find that sense of community is eroded over time. As new tenants move in, you might find that your elevator gets patted a little bit more often during weekends, and you might lose some of that, some of those people that have been living there for some time, and they'll be replaced with tenants. So maybe not, it just depends really on the complex, but just something to consider and think about as well. Now moving over to the people who have the best potential of benefiting from all this. Obviously, tenants really win in this whole situation. All of a sudden, they'll find themselves getting access to more rental properties in a particular neighborhood, and that will give them more selection first and foremost, and also potentially it may help to reduce some of these rental rates that we've been seeing over the past couple of years now. Tenants have really struggled over the past few years, and especially the past year, just because of not only the rental increases, but also the dramatic speed of it too. It's just been happening so quickly that people are really having a hard time adjusting to this. So we might now see more selection, more options for tenants, and that's really a benefit for everyone. Another group that obviously stands to benefit from this is investors. They'll now be able to access complexes that were before unavailable. And in addition to this, there's another aspect of this. They might be able to take, at least temporarily, take advantage of that discount that I mentioned before. So, those rental restricted properties had a little bit of a discount. Now, all of a sudden, if they're quick enough, they can snap up those places before anyone else does. So another potential benefit that some people might not think about. So we hope that you found this quick little video useful for you. If you have any questions or if you'd like to comment about anything like that, we'd love to hear what you have to say about it. It's a very controversial thing, so we'd love to see what the public thinks about this. And if you ever have any questions or you want us to bring up any topics in the future, feel free to drop us a line and like and subscribe if you like. And we'll see you on the next one. Take care.